Hello, welcome to the second episode of A Few Minutes With. Today we're talking with Lauren Chipman of Chipman Design Architects in Des Plaines, Illinois. Lauren talks about designing restaurants for people with disabilities, or ADA design. So Lauren, tell me, how are you incorporating ADA design into restaurants, and is that becoming more important?
We recently had a guest speaker at Chipman, a gentleman named Luke Spinks, who's absolutely incredible, actually, manufacturer vendor that we work with. And he also uses a wheelchair. And so he came in to talk to us about his experience in the physical environment. And I think, something that really stuck with me that we've been discussing at work is number one in four people has a disability in this country. That's $70 billion of discretionary income that we need to acknowledge. So from a business perspective, it makes sense. But also something he said was that he goes, people always say to me, well, I don't see a lot of, people in wheelchairs. We're specifically thinking about wheelchairs. Of course, there's all kinds of disabilities, but I don't see a lot of people in wheelchairs out and about at restaurants. And he goes, do you want to know why that is? It's because it's not designed. It's not built for them. It's not set up for them. And why would they put themselves in an environment where they don't feel comfortable and they don't feel welcome? And so, the number one thing that we really want to hit home with our clients is the importance of thinking about accessibility and universal design from the beginning. Because you've gone into bars or restaurants where you see kind of that sad, lowered bar over at the right, and that's where the drinks are being picked up, and who would want to sit there? And so really thinking about how we can integrate thoughtful accessibility from schematic design, from bubble diagrams, and really make sure that it's not a box that we're checking, but it's really something that is imbued within the entire restaurant. And something that's important to remember is that we need to have accessible seating for each type of experience. So really thinking about that, and not trying to shoehorn at the end of the project to meet code or ANSI or anything like that.
Lauren, is it expensive to design a restaurant to be accessible for people with disabilities?
I mean, yes, restaurants are expensive and square footage is at a premium, but there are ways that we can think about this. And I think where it does start to get expensive is when it is an afterthought, when you have to create a solution that is more custom than if we had come in from the get-go and said, we know that this is important. We want to have an environment that is welcoming for everyone. And we want to make sure that we are creating that and designing for it and budgeting from it from the beginning.
Lauren, are there certain areas of a restaurant that are more difficult to design for people with disabilities? Such as if you're going into a restaurant that was previously something else or previously another restaurant, especially maybe one on two levels?
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, when we think about second gen or third gen spaces, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have as architects and designers is the client will say, well, it was fine before, there aren't any violations. Number one, I think we need to acknowledge that yes, some things just kind of squeaked by, but there are so many lawsuits now. We're looking to not only provide a safe environment for the patrons, but also to protect our clients from financial and legal obligations. Um, if you do have a two-story restaurant and there is not some sort of lift in there, that obviously is going to be a big expense. Also, when we are looking at, corridors going to restrooms, we need to make sure that there is clear space there. As we know, storage space is at a premium, and that might get kind of, we'll call it gunked up with storage thrown in there, and we don't have our 34, 36-inch width. But also looking at restrooms. I mean, that is kind of one of the number one places where restaurateurs can be dinged. So making sure that we're looking at grab bars, that we're looking at clear turning space, that We have pipes covered in order to protect people, mirrors are at their correct height. So those are things that aren't necessarily big ticket items, but need to be adjusted if they aren't compliant.
And one final question, Lauren. You've already touched on this, but the bar. Often the area for people with disabilities is pushed away at the back near where the dirty glasses are dropped off. Is there a way to make ADA seating desirable at a bar in a restaurant?
It's thinking differently about where we are putting that accessible seating. And I think that's one of the biggest things is not just having it in the corner where we maybe don't want to see it. I think it's also a matter of having more than just the required number of seats. Personally, sometimes I don't like sitting at a tall bar chair. And I think, there are plenty of uncomfortable bar stools out there. And so, thinking that it's not just for accessibility, it's providing a wider variety of seating overall to be able to provide that environment for everyone to enjoy.